We're live.
We're going to use that for the entrance for everything, right? So the best way to make sure your product tanks is to solve a problem nobody has with a solution that nobody wants. So today we're going to talk about building your minimum viable product, also known as an MVP. Before you run and find a single developer that you expect to design and build the entire app, we want to take a step back and organize our thoughts and get our expectations down to a realistic level of what's the most important thing to get me to market.
Yeah. And building garbage that no one will use is easy. Building something amazing, like your idea, takes a lot of organization, planning, and strategy.
Yep. So what you're going to want to start with is researching the market, finding similar ideas, because while everybody's got a unique spin on things, it's pretty likely that at least something exists that is kind of like what you're trying to do. So that can give you a really good feel for the market, a good feel for your competition, and maybe give you some insights as to what has worked and what hasn't worked for companies in the past. For example, if I was going to build an app like Uber, I'd want to look at their past and see, hey, what all have they changed that wasn't working for them so that I don't make those same mistakes? But you want to see what other people are doing that you like and don't like.
It's also important, like, it's not the end of the world if a product like your amazing idea that you've never heard of exists, right? Because it's fair to say it's hard to have an original idea these days, especially within like our normal thinking of things. Like, unless you're way out of the box, like the first one to invent social media platform, right?
It's true. I mean, name me a movie that's come out in 10 years that wasn't a reboot of something else.
I hate that. Don't even get me started. That's such shit too. But like, it's good. It's product validation if someone else is doing it. That's a good thing. Like, there's a lot of abundance in the world, so it's okay to be another product doing a similar thing out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look at the tools that we use. ClickUp, for example. It's where most of our stuff lives. It's what we use for task management. How many pieces of task management software are out there?
Thousands, probably.
Yeah, like literally thousands. And everybody's got their own unique twist on it, and it has different features, different functionalities, different user experience. So looking out there and saying, hey, I have an idea for a task management software, but there's a bunch of other task management software out there, so I'm not going to do it.
No, just make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what you don't like about all the ones you've already done. Just don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
As you're validating products, you're going through things, you're finding products, you're finding way more products than you ever thought were in your space, because that's just how it is, right? You don't really realize how much competition is out there or what exists. And I won't even call it competition. I shouldn't have said that. But you're finding a lot of apps.
How dare you use a word?
Well, I just don't think it like, just because, like, I don't know, we can both be app developers doing the same exact kind of development, and yes, we could like potentially compete for a job, but there's a lot of work out there.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, you can share in the...
Yeah, it's kind of the Gary Vee approach of the world is abundant.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of room for everybody, even though a lot of times in business, we feel like we're being pinned down into this whole competition dogfight.
Exactly.
Like the art of war and how it applies to selling paper.
Yep.
Like, that's not how it really works.
Right. So you look through these apps that are doing similar things to you, and it helps you see things that you really love that they're doing and things you really hate that they're doing. And then you take those and you can start building a list, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I'm building out games, I typically look at, hey, we've got this idea that I'm going to build out, or we've got something that a client wants to build out. What are other games like this? And I'm going to go through and grab references and examples of this game did this thing really well. It also did this thing, this other thing over here, really crappy. So we're not going to use that. We're going to use this thing over here. And I'm going to find a game that fills this gap and try to emulate more of that. It just kind of gives you a reference and a baseline of what do you like, what don't you like, what works, what doesn't. And that's really important as you start out, because the first thing that you're going to want to do when you're building out your MVP is you're going to start a list of everything that your app is supposed to do. You can include a full list of every idea you can think of, but you do want to make sure that you clearly mark what is important and absolutely necessary for your app to be usable.
Yeah. And you're going to take that list, and it could be, 20, 100, 1,000 things, right? Like that list is everything you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But now you need to take the minimal features from that list. Like, what is the minimal feature list that allows your app to still launch?
Yeah. And everybody gets this idea in their heads of, I have to build this super amazing thing like an industry giant that already exists. Like take Netflix.
Yep.
Netflix, for example. Their MVP was more of a proof of concept of, hey, if we send a DVD through the mail, does it get there okay? And that was it. They made sure, hey, it's safe to put it in the mail. And their MVP, even though they were already coming up with plans for, wouldn't it be cool if we had our own film production studio in-house? Wouldn't it be cool if we could deliver it directly to people's homes and not have the DVDs? All that stuff. The reality of the situation was, to get things started and get money in the door, their quickest route was, I'm going to sign people up and I'm going to send a DVD to their door, and that's it. That was their MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to avoid those grandiose ideas that a lot of people, especially like the higher up business people, tend to get of, my MVP is this giant app and it only works if it's got everything.
Yeah. And I like to use Perfect Form as an example because this is like our biggest project that we owned from the start,
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard because you're comparing yourself to established brands out there that are already doing it and could be in the game a decade. And their feature list is a decade of development time. And now you're looking to get a product out in probably 8 months' time, right? So we had this giant list of Perfect Form features, right? Like, obviously, you have to be able to buy a workout.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to see a workout. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to check off exercises complete, track your progress, all these things, right? Have a discussion board where you can message people. And the list kept growing and growing and growing. And it was hard. It was hard for me to dwindle it down because I'm like, well, it's not a cool product without all these features. Like, I want augmented reality in there. Like, I have like all these amazing ideas, right? That will take us a decade to build.
Yeah.
But I had to remove them all and be like, all right, what is the minimal viable product? And it made me sad at first. It was like, dude, this is such a stupid little measly
lame
app. It is. It was lame. And then as we're building and we were getting close to our launch date, we stripped out even more features to hit our beta launch.
Mm-hmm.
And that was devastating, but it made sense at the time. And like, because we actually didn't really need some of the features for our app to be useful.
Yeah. And I mean, even looking at that, like with stripping out features and what we're doing right now behind the scenes, that's really an important thing to look at, because those features that we stripped them out because they didn't really make sense in context. Like, for that user experience, on paper, they sounded super cool. We loved them. This is great. This is a great feature. But in practice, we realized we don't need this, and this doesn't fit the experience that we want to have. And even right now, imagine the route that we're taking, which, without too much detail, we're rebuilding Perfect Form in a game engine.
Secrets. It's so freaking cool, and I can't wait to share it, but we can't talk about it yet.
But anyways, imagine if we had taken your whole list of features and we were just still sprinting towards that end, and we didn't take a minute to stop and go, okay, well, what works here? What doesn't work here? And is this really fitting our vision?
Yeah. And I think the most crucial lesson learned was we did dial that back. And beta testing did exactly what it was supposed to do. Our product wasn't getting the attention or the use we wanted it to by clients and coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like,
what do we gotta do to get them there?
we're not doing something right. And like my gut knew the app wasn't what I envisioned. It wasn't our vision that like we saw, you know?
Yeah, and building out the front end, I'm sitting there looking at it, and we had multiple conversations where you commenced to correct me because we got to be more positive. But the app was okay.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing inherently wrong.
We were
with
proud
what we have
of
right now.
everything in the app. It just wasn't.
It wasn't
enough. It wasn't it. It didn't. My own app didn't. I didn't want to use it.
Yeah.
And that
and
was.
So that's where we took the step back and we're like, okay, well, what is what we're looking for? What is it that we want to build?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why MVPs are so important. Like I had said, imagine we spent another year or two continuing to build on what was already there and continuing down this path going, well, it's just because we don't have these bells and whistles. That's why it doesn't feel right. So we're just going to keep moving. We're going to keep pushing forward. It's just going to be okay. It's just a feature away.
Mm-hmm.
We just need this next feature and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Chasing the feature thing too is dangerous.
Yeah.
We've been a part of a lot of companies where the product owner always thought we were a feature away from
going viral.
Yeah, exactly. And that's never the case. Like
meanwhile, the product as a whole.
I can't say it's never the case, but it's usually not going to be the case. Well, what is impressive
people do win the lottery.
Yeah.
But
that's true. And what was impressive with Perfect Form though is if you think about it, we turned out our MVP in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like our app did quite a bit.
It really was.
But then it took us probably another 6 months to decide to do the big redesign.
Yeah. Well, that's because we were like playing around with these other features and we were testing things, doing quality checks. And as we were going through it, we were coming to this realization of this isn't what we wanted.
Yeah. And so as we're talking about what you do when you're building out an MVP, I wouldn't even say our failures. It's our lessons learned are exactly the reason why.
Yeah, for sure.
Why the steps we're going through today are so important.
Yeah. So you've got your MVP list. You've got all of your plans. What are the minimal features?
Minimal too. We're talking minimal, guys. Like
if you ever, as a piece of homework, go look up version 1 of Uber. Like you want minimalistic.
Yeah.
That was minimalistic.
But like when I say minimal, I mean literally bare bones. You still have your app, but no extras.
Yeah,
like,
no bells and whistles.
Nothing.
Like unless you are specifically building a chat app, your MVP does not need to include chat.
Correct. Everyone wants chat. I mean, we wanted chat.
I know a couple companies that really want chat.
They really do. Chat is important.
Oh God. But no, it's important to make those distinctions and say, okay, what is the core value that my app brings? I'm building a calculator. It would be really cool if I could share my calculations to social media and take video and save it to TikTok and alert all my friends and have notifications when my friends make calculations. But none of those have anything to do with building a calculator.
Well, maybe you also want, live viewing, like people can come in and watch you calculate live.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. I love doing math under pressure.
No pressure.
Oh God, I put in an extra 6.
Dude, no, that total tangent. I was going to say like, it's almost like coding live when people watch you code.
Oh boy. I hate that.
It's so stressful.
Nothing is more stressful to me than making tutorials
live.
Right? Yeah. But anyways, so you want to kind of focus on what are the core things that we want to achieve here. And you're going to want to kind of sketch it out view by view, even if it isn't pretty, to kind of give you an idea. Like this is technically called a wireframe.
Yeah. And dude, it can be on a napkin. Just draw it out. Every single view that's in your app.
You want your iPhone screen, don't bother looking for mock-ups, just draw a rectangle.
Yeah, draw a rectangle. And your buttons can be rectangles too.
Rectangle or a circle.
Yeah, whatever you
matter.
want. Just freaking get it on paper.
But you want to kind of get that flow going and figure out, okay, how is this actually going to work? And get some kind of sketch out of what do I see in my mind? And the reason that you want to do this is it makes it tons easier to describe and to discuss with people you might have helping you, or potential investors, or even just people you bounced your ideas off of. It's a lot easier to show them the picture and be like, this is kind of what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get feedback.
Yep.
And it's also going to help you grasp how things overall are going to work for your user experience, which is super important at early stages to know, like, this is the experience that I want my users to have.
Yeah, and just sketching it out, like once you're there, it makes it way easier. Like, I'm not a designer by any means, so bringing in a UI UX designer is extremely important for any product that I'm behind.
Yeah,
because I don't make things pretty. I just don't have an eye for it, and I accept that. Okay, but having this drawn out makes your app like a clearer picture to discuss and show a designer. Like, they're not going to care if you just have rectangles and X's, but like they can still see the overall layout that you're picturing in your mind and the flow of your app view by view. So it makes it a little easier for them to offer their services, either quote you hourly or by project, or I don't know, or you're hiring a dev shop. It just makes everything easier when you know exactly what you want. If you show up with your rough wireframe and your requirements as detailed as you can get them, your life will be a lot easier to work with any third-party people.
Yeah, and especially like in those early stages, communication is key. The more you can communicate, the better off everything is going to be. And you're going to avoid those annoying cycles with a designer where you say, I want something like Facebook. And they come back with Facebook. And you go, well, I didn't want it to be exactly like Facebook.
I want a fun little twist on it.
I want a fun little twist on it. I hate hearing that. Cool. What's your fun little twist?
Hey, we're Facebook with a fun little twist. So just put that in there. Thanks.
Our fun little twist is Squid Games.
Our fun little twist is not Facebook at all.
Yeah, but it helps you avoid a lot of that, and it helps you move faster. It leads to less frustration for everyone involved. So even if you think I'm not a designer and this is going to look like crap, just do it anyways.
Do it anyways.
Because nobody cares.
No one cares. And honestly, if you want it to be pretty, Canva. It's a life changer. It made me pretty decent at making
this episode
content.
Brought to you by
Canva.com. Great
Just
product.
kidding.
We're not endorsed by them, but cool story too, actually.
But we're open to talking.
But we are Canva. We love you. Yeah. Well, I forgot what we were talking about.
You're about to say cool story about Canva.
Oh, no, the founder's story is really cool.
Okay.
So I don't actually know the lady's background, but she completely bootstrapped the whole thing. She got like denied by like 50 investors, and now they're like a multi-billion-dollar company.
They're like one of the fastest rising companies.
Yeah, it's insane, and I love seeing stories like that. It's just
for sure.
really cool. We're done with our design, right? Or we've got it kicked off at least. So you want to actually find people as you start building features out. You want to have a group of people for like alpha testing. Mm-hmm. And alpha testing is just like pre-beta. You might not have a full product, but you can test features, right? So like you could have a small group of people, and it might not even be future users. It could just be friends and family, right? And it could just be as simple as like testing the login screen, password reset, whatever features you're working on. You want to make sure everything's working the way you expect it.
Yeah, it's more about like that UX focus rather than, hey, this has a bug in it.
Not necessarily bugs, because if you hire a dev shop or developers, unless it's like one developer, a lot of chances they have like some sort of QA process, which is quality assurance on the code side, right? So like HGA, for instance, we have unit tests, and we have like QA steps that we'll build for every project.
Yeah.
Like checklist.
And even just in general, alpha testing is more about, let's double check the UX, let's double check the flow, let's make sure that we're actually building what needs to be built. And that's where that phrase comes in of don't solve a problem nobody has with a solution nobody wants. Because you could build the most bug-free experience, you could build a whole bunch of features, but if it isn't what you're looking for or what your users are looking for, who cares?
Well, and another good thing with the idea of alpha testing, you're always doing it in small stages, but you also don't want your user to like get logged in, right? And get to your home screen and then not know what to do with your app.
Yeah. And I mean, that's without naming names or anything, a company that kind of comes to mind that we've both worked for in the past. They have a product that they've been building out for literally years. And their problem is, and this is one of those that they're always just a feature away. They always think they're a feature away from going big. It does nothing. Like the use case, even as we were working on it, we're sitting there like, what is the point of this? Nobody's going to use this. Why?
Right.
And so you can pour all of those resources and all of that time when, I mean, once upon a time, I think we had we just had kind of a thought session and we sat down like you and I did way after the fact of working for them. And we just kind of thought, what could we do that would solve what they're trying to solve and do what they're trying to do? And it took us about 10 minutes of planning to come up with something that looks a lot better than their implementation, but they're still chugging away at this idea that just doesn't work. And that's the last thing that you want as a business owner, is to be spending literally years building out stuff and quality testing something that nobody wants to use.
It's very important to realize you're solving a problem that people think there's a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if there's no problem to solve, you can't invent it.
Well, yeah, and how are you going to market it?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you market it like it's a problem, but then it's just kind of confusing because everyone doesn't see the problem.
Yeah. Have you ever had to do this? No.
Nope.
No, I haven't.
Nope. I don't.
Who does it this way?
So alpha testing is important. It steps you up. And then as you get through alpha testing, your necessary features are there and everything is working the way you expect it to. You're happy with it. You kind of do like not a feature freeze because you're already done with features.
Yeah.
But you do big development freeze and you enter into beta testing. And this is where you actually are aiming for your potential clients or user base that you actually want in your app, right? But you'll keep it at a smaller group. So you might have a mailing list. You might have like a pre-register sign up when you start bringing people on in small numbers, because you're doing a few things here when you enter beta testing. You want them to report bugs. You want them to report just feedback in general. Are things confusing? Are they happy? Do they get it? Do they think it's great? Is the user experience good? Is there any like pinch points, frustration, or like confusing pieces, right? So you want all of this. And while you're slowly bringing people in, think of this like it's a new infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
It's a new freeway. You don't really know if your on-ramps and off-ramps work as good as you've designed them. So you're slowly pushing your server, right? And your scalability and your API, and you're just making sure everything is functioning the way it should.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you slowly bring the load on, and you can increase your beta testers over time, but you want it to be a slower, like linear line.
Yeah, and that's why you see a lot of like slower rollouts with beta testing, where they send out an announcement email and say, hey, we're allowing 1,000 people to sign up, first come first serve, but we're cutting it off at 1,000.
Yeah.
And like that's just an arbitrary number,
right?
But we're just checking out, we're making sure that it works with this 1,000 people.
Because you've tested it with like probably 5 people on your server, and now you have to do a little stress test.
Yeah, and that there are things that you can do with that to kind of help as you go, like chaos testing. That's kind of less popular in the programming world, and I have no idea why. It's something that Netflix actually does. They have a tool called Chaos Monkey, and I think I've mentioned this to you before.
I've heard it, but refresh my memory,
But
because it's always good
the
to...
basic idea is the name came from what would happen if we threw a monkey at our servers. And what it'll do is it'll actually just start doing random crap to your environment. Like it'll start shutting off services.
I was going to say it crashes parts of your
it will intentionally crash everything in succession and in different combinations. And the whole point is to test like resiliency and how do your servers and how do your systems.
Which is why fault tolerance with Elixir is so amazing.
It is, actually. Rust is a little jealous. But anyways, it's stuff that you do. It's better to have it crash during the workday while somebody's watching it than at 2:30 in the morning when you have to call in an engineer that's on call and they're asleep and everything's on fire. And so that whole chaos testing is to check your resiliency, see how things work when everything is going nuts and everything is going wrong. So that's one thing that you can do and your developers can do. There's also network stress tests, but those only get you so far. Like they still don't match the realistic what happens when we have X number of actual users on the server doing a bunch of stuff that we don't expect.
Yes.
I mean, that's why
and
QA exists in the first place.
people will always use your app differently than you think they will.
Yep. It's called happy path syndrome. Like when you design it and when you develop it, you know how it's supposed to work.
And you only see that path. So you're a little blind.
Yeah, it's a bias that comes out from building it.
Which is why programmers are the worst QA testers. If you wrote your own code, you're a horrible QA tester because you're only testing it the way you wrote the code for. Because that's how your brain is wired.
Why would this person ever change their own name and then be upset that their name isn't working? Like
So my first introduction to this was back in the day. I did like manufacturing automation, and I was removing very mechanical systems and adding like touch screens and PLCs and all this different stuff from like physical buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And like, of course I only push one button at once at a time and that's like also the way it operated with the physical buttons, because it was just harder to double tap.
Yeah.
Well, you throw a touchscreen on with multiple buttons that are easier you can spread your fingers and touch them both. Dude, within 10 minutes, I was watching.
Jimmy with his peanut butter fingers.
Dude, yes. And then it was doing you just like do crazy shit. Like you're like, it just makes you think like, okay, a motor that is spinning forward cannot be stopped in 1 second and thrown in reverse. Yeah. And you actually like have to start putting in timers and like delays and not allow double touch, like a new thing, right? Because it's a touch screen. You don't think about double touch. Like, so you learn through. It's an interesting process.
It's that thing where like as the engineer, you sit there and you go, you did this so wrong. It's actually kind of impressive.
Right. Yes. And that happened to me every day for probably 2 months when I was like rolling out really fresh, like really fresh over like rebuilds. And I was just like, I can't do this. How are people doing it this way?
It's like one of my favorite Reddit posts that I'm going to change a little bit for the purposes of the podcast and our rating. But somebody tried to post this inspirational quote, and they were like, do something that excites you, but also do something that scares you. And some troll responded, and they were like, instructions unclear, got my finger stuck in a blender. And it's like, no, not that.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, so you've got all this testing done. You've built your product out. You're in beta. Things are looking good. What do you do when you're confident with that? That's when you go ahead and launch and breathe a big sigh of relief because you're done.
Nothing
forever.
Goes wrong.
Nothing's
after beta
ever
going to
go wrong.
You know, the smoothest day of your product is launch day.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody just kicks it back, has a nice cold drink. Customers are so happy.
And then you forgot that you didn't put your environment variable file on the production server.
Everybody's happy. And then you wake up and find out it's launch day. And so you need to make sure that you're fast and responsive with customer issues and feedback, because 99% of the time you're going to have problems.
Yeah. And it's crucial to be quick on that feedback, because if someone's frustrated or something's not working right, like, it's just Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
You could have, everything went perfect in beta testing, and now someone can't log in with a new account they just created. If you are not responsive and have like really understanding customer service to intercept and fix that problem quickly, you just lost that user.
Yeah. Honestly, what most customers, especially on a launch day, people have kind of figured out how this works. And they've figured out on launch day, there's probably going to be problems. And so customers and users are typically pretty understanding, but what they usually want is to feel like they've been heard and that you understand there's a problem and you're like trying to fix it as fast as you can.
Yep.
Because nothing's more frustrating than, I just paid $30 for this product and it's broken. What are you going to do about it? Well, maybe we'll patch it in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be really responsive and understanding. And it's a hard chew for me to fill. I'm getting better at it now, but like, I don't let like negative tone or like pissed off people really affect me anymore. It's just like, I'll be cheery. Let's just get this done, buddy.
That's fair. I usually go hide in the corner and have myself a good cry. And then, you know, I'm very emotional.
I know. He has a dog bed under his desk that I caught him curled up on, whimpering.
What you didn't see was the weighted blanket underneath that I use but to help me feel like I'm getting a nice big hug when I get mean emails.
But so yeah, you hit launch day, right?
Yep.
And now everything. All right. So if there are features in your MVP list that aren't working 100%, your priority should be ironing out your MVP features to be perfect. No bugs.
Yeah.
Nothing weird should happen.
Yeah. You want that solid foundation before you move on to anything else.
Yeah.
And that's a mistake that a lot of people make, is they'll have like their MVPs working 85, 90%, but there are these bugs with their core features.
And they ignore them because they want a fancy feature.
Yeah. And they say, that's okay. We'll fix that later. Let's go over to this. And then that gets bugs in it. And it's just a compounding problem. And we'll talk about this in another episode, but that's called technical debt.
I was just going to say tech debt.
And you never get to it.
You can't. And it actually can destroy projects.
Yep, for sure. I've seen
spins out of control.
It does really quick, and it gets out from under you. And then suddenly everything's broken and nobody knows why. And your team switches out and there's no handover with this stuff. Like it's a recipe for disaster. And so you want to make sure that you're on top of that all of the time and that you're getting stuff 100% complete. Otherwise, your 85 to 90% is going to end up as, there's this ticket in our backlog that's been there for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And nobody remembers anything about it.
Yeah. We'll save this for the tech debt, but maybe I'll say it just in case we forget. But if you have
podcast debt.
Well, I was going to say, like, if you have high turnover in a new product with developers, it is a multiplier effect on your tech debt. Yeah,
for sure. So you want to keep your devs happy.
You want to keep your devs happy and work on a core team. You don't. Yeah. And we talked about that in an earlier episode.
A little bit.
Keeping devs happy. It's important.
The basic gist, for those that didn't listen to it, is you get tempted to try and put your devs through the fire while you're doing launch and you're stressed and you've got all these deadlines. But it's important to remember that they're human, and everybody likes the occasional hero story of, I did this heroic Herculean effort and did this amazing thing, but it's better to not have to do that at all.
I pushed directly to production.
Is that why it's broken?
It's a good chance, yes. But, all right. Boom. Building your MVP. Most valuable programmer.